Hello, guys.
Hello.
Welcome to Poems with Friends. I am Megha, and this is Anurag, and this is Poems with Friends, where we read a poem every week and try to feel something.
Yes.
Also, Anurag is dying of dengue,
Yes.
so if he dies in the middle of this, then you guys will also get to witness a live death.
So, but and if I die, give us likes and subscribe.
Yes, just for the death. Okay, let's do this. So actually, there is a little bit of a catch here. I want us to do two poems today, which are on the same topic but written by different poets, and see what happens. So the first one is Mus Day B Arts. Okay, that is a tough name. Let me just.
Muse, I think, is museum.
Oh,
Museum of something arts.
nice.
So, why don't you read it? I think long poems
Since
is
you're
not.
dying, I'll read it. About suffering, they were never wrong. The old masters, how well they understood its human position. How it takes place while someone else is eating, or opening a window, or just walking dully along. How, when the aged are reverently, passionately waiting for the miraculous birth, there always must be children who did not specially want it to happen, skating on a pond at the edge of the wood. They never forgot that even the dreadful martyrdom must run its course, anyhow in a corner. Some untidy spot where the dogs go on with their doggy life and the torturer's horse scratches its innocent behind on a tree. In Bruegel's Icarus, for instance, how everything turns away quite leisurely from the disaster. The ploughman may have heard the splash, the forsaken cry, but for him it was not an important failure. The sun shone as it had to on the white legs disappearing into the green water, and the expensive, delicate ship that must have seen something amazing, a boy falling out of the sky, had somewhere to get to and sailed calmly on. Nice. Actually, just for our viewers' benefit, this poem cannot be enjoyed without the context of this painting which he writes about. So, this is a three level of meta art happening. First is the myth of Icarus, which is basically Icarus and his father, which is a Greek myth in which Icarus and his father were trapped in the maze by Minos the king, and his father made wax wings for him so that he could fly out of the maze. But the father said that you shouldn't fly too close to the sun, otherwise your wings will melt. But Icarus is like, I don't give a fuck about my father's instructions. So he flew too close to the sun and his wings melted and he died. So then people, this is the first level of the thing. Then the second level is people made a painting about it. So there's a painting about it in which there's this whole scenery, and then Icarus is right here. This is Icarus.
No, what was that?
No, that is something else. See, this is the legs.
Oh,
So now, with on this painting are these two poems written.
hmm.
So if we go back,
But
and
this is the second layer.
this is the third layer. So first layer is myth of Icarus, second layer is painting, third layer is the poems written on the painting.
Hmm.
So the last paragraph of this poem actually completely refers to the painting itself. So
Hmm.
in Bruegel's Icarus, so Bruegel is the name of the artist who made the painting. Uh, we can read this second paragraph once again after looking at this painting actually. You want to read it?
So in Bruegel's Icarus, for instance, how everything turns away quite leisurely from the disaster. The ploughman may have heard the splash, the forsaken cry, but for him it was not an important failure. The sun shone as it had to on the white legs disappearing into the green water, and the expensive, delicate ship that must have seen something amazing. A boy falling out of the sky had somewhere to get to and sailed calmly on. Wait, it is saying But for him, it was not an important failure. The sun shone as it had to on the white legs disappearing into the green water.
The white legs disappearing into the green water. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Hmm.
In the green water, and so there are three different sets of witnesses here. The first is the plowman right in the forefront. The second is the sun, which is somewhere, and the third is that ship,
Right.
which is like it had somewhere amazing to go. Understood. At least I understood it at a literal level.
So the second paragraph is completely about the painting. Then he also talks about the thing that actually he also talks about it not in respect of the painting but in a general sense in the first paragraph. So we can actually discuss the first paragraph first. So let's read the first paragraph again. The second paragraph we know is about the painting, and the first paragraph we can read again.
I cannot read for it.
Okay. About suffering, they were never wrong, the old masters. How well they understood its human position. How it takes place while someone else is eating or opening a window or just walking dully along. So let's discuss piece by piece. When I was reading this line, I was thinking how it applies to you right now so well. That you are suffering so much and someone else is opening a window or just having ice cream, or Gattu is sitting by the window there. So just that.
Gattu is our cat.
He has ditched us today. He has not joined us. Anyways, okay. How then the aged are reverently, passionately waiting for the miraculous birth, there always must be children who did not specially want it to happen, skating on a pond at the edge of the wood. They never forget that even the dreadful martyrdom must run its course anyhow in a corner, some untidy spot where the dogs go on with their doggy life and the torturer's horse scratches its innocent behind on a tree. Nice. What do you feel? Do you feel anything after reading this?
I'm still slightly confused about there are a lot of pronouns. So I am able to not ascribe them because they are saying about suffering, they were never wrong, the old masters. So the old masters.
There is the old masters. They were not wrong about suffering.
But what do old masters really mean? I'm still slightly confused. It seems like some wise old men type of people, but they could be something
That's
else.
a good question. I think for me, the old masters meant general human knowledge, like philosophical knowledge, let's say.
Got it. And how well they understood its human, how well they understood its
Sufferings.
okay. So, okay. How well they understood its human position, how it takes place while someone else is eating or opening a window, just walking dully along. How when the aged are reverently, passionately waiting for the miraculous birth. So as such, they are saying that the world is crumbling, etc., and they are waiting for some person who brings back the glory.
Right, exactly. That's a very nice way to put it. So he's not only talking about suffering, he just talked about it in the first 4 lines, but then he's talking also about how to rescue the world from suffering. So he's painting a picture of that its suffering is happening and someone is eating or opening a window and the aged are. So I think this is also nice that he's saying that maybe some people don't care about it who are eating or opening a window, but the aged care about it and they are reverently waiting for the miraculous birth, as you said, to return it to glory.
But they are saying, despite it happening, there always must be children
Right.
who did not specially want it to happen. They are like, "Ki, this skating on a pond at the edge of the world.
They did not care about the miraculous birth. Children must be like, what are these aged people are doing whole day? We don't care.
No, it's like Harry Potter.
Why Harry Potter?
The world is like the boy who lived, etc. Harry Potter is like a.
I am in love with Cho Chang. That is more important. Yes, right.
They never forgot that even the dreadful martyrdom, they is now the aged.
That is a good question.
They never forgot that.
They never forgot. I think this is the old masters again. That the old masters never forgot, because I think this is just one image and we are out of this image, and now we are talking about the old masters again. That they have this again more wise thing to say.
They never forgot that even the dreadful martyrdom, they never forgot. Isn't they remember
Right.
that even the dreadful martyrdom must run its course anyhow in a corner. The next part is clear enough, where they are essentially saying that everyone has a private dirty thing that nobody wants to see. That someone is scratching their butt or pooping it, just
Right.
which is not something anybody wants to see, even from a martyr. They're like,
Martyr should always be martyr.
but they're like, they did not forget. It's not like they forgot. They're saying they never forgot, which is.
That is a good point. I also don't understand the exact implication of them not forgetting it. Maybe it is something that he's saying that they keep, that is a knowledge that is being passed on, and they are not forgetting about it. Like, it is also important, an important piece of information or an important corollary to the main point that suffering takes place while someone else is eating. But I will come back to the they never forgot. I think this point is very nice what you meant, that even the dreadful martyrdom must run its course anyhow in a corner, some untidy spot. So one perspective that you gave is that martyrdom should always be martyrdom. It should never be dirty. Like, a martyr cannot be seen having constipation or something like that. Right? But I saw it in a way that martyrdom is celebrated after the fact, after you are a martyr and after everything is happened, then they might celebrate you. But while you are doing the thing, while you are actually actual suffering is happening to you, that is happening in some untidy spot, and at that time no one cares about you. So, after the fact they might say that, oh, this person was a martyr, they did blah 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 great things, etc., etc. But when the actual suffering is happening, then no one cares. Then people are doing their pooping or.
What I understood from you, and forgive me because
I will not forgive you.
I'm dying. You have to forgive me.
No, then you will come back as a ghost, no? So then we can do ghost poetry podcasts.
Are you saying, and I'm trying to understand, I think, because we may be miscommunicating, that is some untidy spot where the dogs go on with their doggy life, according to you, is it a metaphor for a suffering from a martyr?
No.
Oh, okay, then I misunderstood.
No, I am saying that let's say the martyr is someone who is a soldier in a war. So I am saying that after the war is over, and depending on whoever won the war, that soldier will be named a martyr. Then they will be given medals and glory and everything. But while the war is happening and while the actual suffering for that person is happening, the actual suffering is the war that is happening. Like, the word martyr itself implies suffering, right? So while the suffering is happening, they are maybe in some foxhole which is dirty, and where some random things are happening, some doggies are doing their doggy life. So there is a random setup in which the actual suffering is happening. So that is why
They are in कि these areas nobody goes, but the
Right.
martyr has to go.
And that martyrdom must run its course. It will also happen in oblivion. The martyrdom will actually be happening in oblivion. It is after the fact that you will say that, oh wow, this person is great.
Got it.
This point was interesting to me. This caught my eye, in which he said, and the torturer's horse scratches its innocent behind on a tree. I don't know if that's what he meant.
That actually does tie back to your point, because even the dogs could be the soldier's dog, no, the sniffers and whatever. But I think I probably now appreciate your martyr connecting with these two animals, because they're saying the martyr could be a torturer also. Okay, but the horse is like
Horse is innocent.
The martyr is in some
foxhole, and meanwhile torture is also happening elsewhere, and the
maybe by the same person.
maybe that is some next level of connection you have made. So you are saying that actually that is right, because in a war whoever wins, like it depends on who is the nice person depending on who wins the war, right? They say the winners write the history and the other person is the torturer then. So you're saying it could also allude to the fact that the person who becomes martyr in retrospect could also be the torturer.
The only thing is, war is never really talked about elsewhere. So that is why the only thing going against it, because war,
I just took an example of war because martyrdom generally you talk in context of war, no? That martyr. I thought of the torturer's horse in the sense that the martyr is doing his suffering and the dog is doing his life, which directly connects to the first line, that suffering is happening when someone else is eating or opening a window. And I think it connects back to the first line in a sense that it takes the first line and it gives you a superlative example of that. For example, one example is you are suffering in your dengue fever, and then bird 2 is eating an ice cream. But what he is saying is he's taking this general line and he's giving a superlative example, not just your dengue suffering, some dreadful martyrdom that also has to happen while people are doing their doggy life. So I think till here I could connect to it in as a superlative example of the first point itself. But then this last part caught me suddenly, that and the torturer's horse scratches its innocent behind on a tree. It made me think that not only the suffering is happening to the martyr, some other suffering is also happening, and that also no one is caring about. I mean, torturer's horse is just scratching his behind and torture is happening elsewhere. So life does not stop, suffering just keeps happening. I mean, actually personally I would say this line distracted me a little bit, like this last line. I don't know how much it adds. It personally distracted me.
because the poet goes on to say in Bruegel's Icarus, for instance. So the last paragraph is a explanation for everything that
Right.
like the poet is trying to convey. The poet is like, hey, all this happens. Take that as an example, and that is a very clear example.
Right. And this actually seemed like a digression. That this is torturous horses also there, but horse is innocent and horse is scratching. Anyways, okay. So this, I think I really like this because I really like existential stuff, and so I like the whole concept of it, that how suffering takes place. Suffering is always happening and people are doing their stuff. And even this image of the elders just sitting around a lake and waiting for some miraculous birth, and children are like, whatever, I am in love with a new person today. So that image also I liked it, with respect to how we assign value to suffering. Similarly, we assign value to someone coming and saving the world. We keep assigning values to things, but actually life just goes on, right? Doesn't care.
And that's true, right? Like,
Hmm.
for example, take the not take the stories of all these supermen that are existing right now. For example, who was that Wonder Woman?
Wonder Woman?
Okay, I'll go with Batman.
Acha, you
Okay,
are
Batman is like a people hail Batman as a hero, but Batman kills people. Batman does a lot of things. Just that because he's saving people, people are like, we don't know what you're doing.
Right.
We don't know how you are doing it. We just like the fact that you are saving the world. We don't want the details.
Right, right. I think it's interesting how this poem has so much. It might be called a digression, but it has so much that you have connected to it in a separate dimension. I have connected to it in a separate dimension. Like this example you gave, and even the first example you gave, in which you said that martyrdom should not be seen constipated. So I think that is the image that caught you specifically. That there is one thing that you focus on, and everything else you don't want to see, and you don't even want to know that it exists. I think for me the image that I caught on to is like someone, let's say, dying on the road and children eating ice cream on the side. So I think and both are very valid. It's amazing how both of us like caught on to these two different images so strongly from a single poem. Nice. Okay, coming back to the paragraph about the painting. The painting example is again an example of all of this that he said that I think let me open the painting again. So what he's saying is that in this painting, how everything is turning away quite leisurely from the disaster. And this is even a more superlative example because Icarus is like a god, right? And he's the stuff of Greek myths. But still, they are saying that for the plowman, for him it was not an important failure. The sun shone, blah blah blah, and the expensive, delicate ship must have seen something amazing, but it had somewhere to go. So we don't really care. I think, yeah, it actually reminds me of when we were driving back from Mysore, and we had seen like an accident on the road, like actual humans dead in a car, and I had also seen the dead body, and people were stopping and seeing things, but then they were asked to go, and we were really sad for like 20 minutes or so, and then we were okay because again our mind was filled with, oh, we have to get there at this time, and where will we eat, what will we do, you know. You see something, so this line that the ship had somewhere to go and sailed calmly on, that applies to our current lives also, right? We see something, maybe we are affected by it for a second, like it says it must have seen something amazing, but then we move on because we have to move on with our lives. Okay, so we have to move on with the podcast, so we should forget about suffering and move on with the podcast. So why I was saying that I want to read two poems is this is another one which is on the same painting, the same myth, the same painting. It's a very short one, so I'll quickly read it. According to Bruegel, when Icarus fell, it was spring. A farmer was plowing his field. The whole pageantry of the year was awake, tingling with itself, sweating in the sun that melted the wings' wax insignificantly off the coast. There was a splash, quite unnoticed. This was Icarus drowning. So he talks about the same thing in a very succinct manner. I think why I wanted to do Putu is because I was reading about diction in poetry. So we talked about, let's say, imagery in poetry or rhetoric in poetry, which this poem has a lot of. But there is also something called diction. So there is this very nice line that I read which said a poem is like a persuasion. So you feel something and you're trying to persuade the other person to feel the same, or you think something and you're trying to persuade the other person to think the same. So in that sense, a poem is, and when people say that you don't have your voice, your poem is not showing your voice. So I think that point was very interesting for me, because in general when people start writing poetry, they try to do things like they're supposed to do, that this is the rule, this is what I should do, I should start with this line, I should never start with what, or I should never start with this thing. But actually a poem is just you talking, in a sense, right?
That instead of looking from the craft of it, look at the emotion of it.
Yes, and the people who say that this poet has a very unique voice, what they mean is a way of talking or a personality, right? They are basically talking to you. And if we look at these two poems, how different in it is, they're both very different in terms of diction, right? This guy is basically, if you would look at it, he is very detached from it. Like, he's not really going too much into the subject matter, and he's saying that this is what happens according to Bruegel. Thanks. He's just saying this is what Bruegel said. According to Bruegel, when Icarus fell, it was spring, a farmer was plowing. So he's doing it almost in a reporting manner of the painting. But he has his emotions are more hidden, like in words, like his field, the whole pageantry of the year was awake, tingling with itself. So he's looking at the painting and he's feeling things, that oh, this is the pageantry, which is the grass. And then he uses words like in insignificantly. So in these words his emotions are captured, or his feeling about the painting, but he's not saying it very directly. Like, maybe someone like Rohit, who would not directly say what he's feeling, but he'll say, oh, this person said that your house was looking very beautiful and delicate. So he'll hide his feelings in words, but he'll not directly comment or judge on anything.
So, does then that also means that necessarily by the voice of your poem, you will always have different audiences? Like the same thing will be talked about 3 people, and you can never win over all the 3 people?
That is a great point, actually. Yes, that's a great point, because that's how we make friends also, right? The way your personality is, that's why some people like some poets, some people don't like. For example, in the morning we were talking about how I don't really like Billy Collins that much. Don't burn me, please. So that's a great point, that the way you talk, now you cannot convince, if a poem is a persuasion, you cannot convince everyone in the room by the way you talk. Maybe someone will not be convinced by this poem at all, but they will be convinced by this one, because it is much more descriptive and it is taking a much harder stance on things. And so by reading this, someone might be convinced, and by reading this they might not even feel a thing, that oh, what are you even saying, I don't get it. This guy, like, if you talk about his diction, what did you think, what kind of a person he might be, like, in a room if you were sitting with him versus that guy?
This person is an explainer, a thinker, wants to talk.
Yes.
Not just wants to talk, wants to explain.
Right. Really get his point across.
Ki preciseness exists.
Right. Using multiple examples, really making the point very strongly also. Like the first line itself, he says about suffering they were never wrong. He made a declaration that they were never wrong, and I am saying that they were never wrong because I am also judging, I am also passing my judgment, and plus the old masters. So he's also bringing in the swords, like when the people who say that, oh, I read on Wikipedia says this, so it is correct.
You're trying to bolster his point. This person wants to prove that.
Right, what I'm saying is the thing.
Where the other person is like, hey, this is what happened.
Yes.
make your own implications.
Yes,
You
exactly.
you should know. You should be on the right side.
This person seems more like, according to Bruegel, this is what happened. He has things hidden in his words. You might
But
take it
still trying to convince. Still
right.
saying, like, unsignificantly is something that the poet added.
Right.
Nobody's telling.
Right, exactly, yes. And he seems like something who will sit in the corner of a party and then slowly say something very wise, but you might not get what he said. If you get it, you get it. He said it. He will not explain 4 times like the other guy. Nice.
Very nice.
So this guy is William Carlos Williams. I think we're talking about this guy, that guy, as if there are pals. This is W.H. Auden. Oh God. Hmm. Anything else?
Not really. I really enjoyed this contrast because these are such specific. Usually, two poems are never the same.
Yes.
So it's very difficult to compare one on one.
Right.
And it's very easy to compare them because the subject matter is so specific.
Exactly.
You can compare.
That's why when I was reading about diction, I got reminded of these two poems, and I think that makes you more free also. Even when I write, I used to think about, oh, should I write this, should I write that, and I used to think more about images and what word will convey an image or what word will convey an emotion. But I think I never used to consciously at least think about diction that much. And plus, for example, so our mother tongue is Hindi, but we write in English. So when I have also noticed that when I write in Hindi, things seem more natural to me more easily, because I think there my diction is preserved very well, in a sense that how I talk is preserved very naturally in Hindi, versus in English I get lost in the image of things and how to make them something into something, and somewhere I lose the diction part of it. How I write my poem, maybe I would never talk like that. Okay, nice painting. We should take a printout of this painting and put it. Okay, awesome. This was great. Let us know, guys, if you have any poems or any poets that you like and you don't like, and maybe it's because of their diction, right?
We may try to cover them. We may agree with you, not agree with you.
Yes, don't burn us in either case. And Rag is still alive, so yay! We will get another episode. Okay, see you guys next time.
Bye bye.